A legal service is obviously pretty important to HR, and an efficient legal service is really important. And a few years ago, previous job to where I am now and where I've obviously started to engage with the HR legal service, I was looking for something that would give me the obvious stuff around the right kind of advice, professionalism, right on time. I also wanted very creative advice that was very commercial, that enabled us to do what we needed to do in the business, as opposed to a lot of lawyers saying, no, you can't do that, which is what lawyers like to say a lot of the time, or sit on the fence and not give you an answer. I wanted a very, very commercially driven, expedient and efficient legal service. And a few years ago, the kind of structure that the HR legal service provides didn't exist. So I kind of worked with this innovative lawyer and law firm and pieced together through their services a kind of retained deal and a retained service. And it worked very well. It didn't give me the 100% of what I envisaged it should have done or wanted, but it worked well at the time. And roll forward a few years, so here I am in my previous role, so this was at Gala Coral, along came an email, normal sort of sales email that you get, and a lot of them that you don't pay attention to, but this one I did, and I paid real attention to it because it literally spelled out in the email exactly what I wanted to try and create a number of years before, and had, as I say, sort of cobbled together with some legal firms that I was working with, and it literally spelt it out word for word, and I thought that was it, this is what I want, because it gives me certainty, it tells me exactly what the budget is and what I'll be spending and how I'll be spending it, no matter the volume, potentially within reason, but no matter the volume of the legal work that we needed doing. If there were more complex legal pieces, then we could buy those in at a much reduced hourly rate than we would pay in a normal legal firm. So it had huge advantage, lots of different pieces of advantages that pulled it together in one package. Now, reading this email, obviously got in touch with HR Legal Service. They came out to see us, did a very good job in explaining the service, and I was ticking all the boxes, but it had more as well, more than I'd even thought that I could get. So the great thing is that the lawyers that work with the service are fabulous, they're very down to earth, they're very pragmatic, and actually they're very human and they're very good people as well, plus the fact that they're very commercial. So again, lots of box ticking, but I really would try, and I know it sounds a bit of a cliche, and sometimes when we say you're an extension of our team, but actually the HR legal service that's provided by ESP is very much an extension of the team. And I've worked with them now in 2 different jobs. I've taken them to my current role from my last role because they were so successful in the last role, I'm really pleased to say. And I'll take them wherever I go in the future because that extension of the team is with me as well as an individual. I trust them. I know that I'll get great advice. I'm getting great advice at a premium advice at a very good rate, at a very reasonable rate. And as I say, the certainty in terms of the retention and the budget helps me plan the kind of spend to make our legal service efficient. I suppose the benefits really, I have always worked in very thin margin businesses, and the last 2 jobs have been private equity organisations. And this is where I've brought the HR legal service into, and anyone who works in that kind of environment knows that you don't even start with a budget. Everything has to have a return on investment. So if you buy a service in, you've got to prove that it's going to give you huge return, and that's exactly what the service does. It is very clear what legal advice you're getting, and it's very clear, as I said, how sort of almost discounted the price is, and compared to the premium product that you get, for our kind of organisation, it's perfect. So managing the budget, knowing what the cost is going to be, and then knowing if you have got things that are complex, you're not there with a kind of headache thinking, the legal fee when it comes in, the bill's going to be massive, it's going to be a real stretch, it's going to be a real problem, because I know that I'm going to get really good advice for a really good rate. So it's not necessarily that we have money to spend elsewhere, but it's certainly something that shareholders and the investors are very pleased with. It saved an awful lot of money, yeah, and it certainly did at Gala Coral. Our legal fees, when I first went into that business, obviously I'm not going to quote numbers, but our legal fees were hundreds of thousands, over $250,000, so I'll give you one quote. And we pulled that back to about 120. So it was, you can't get better than that. That's through efficiency, it's through working with that service. And that service as well, becoming part of the team, knowing exactly the culture and knowing the kind of things that we need to do, helped for future years, and you just saw that spend getting less and less over a period of time. I kind of created something that was similar, had a bit of an innovation of my own to a certain extent, and a willing firm or law firm that was helpful in trying to create something, but it was a bit, I guess, cobbled together is probably the only words that I can use. Whereas when I'd received the email from the HR legal service, it did describe exactly what I was looking for, and providers like ESP will tell you more about the reasons why that is in terms of all the legislative and regulatory changes and so on and so forth. That's not really that important to me. What's important to me as a consumer was this service suddenly became something that I could use and tap into very quickly, and the speed in which the team actually get to know your organisation and become part of that team, get to know what your strategy is, what your agenda is, and what you're trying to achieve is phenomenal. They really are truly a great team.